Hey, everybody. Welcome to another great episode of the High Five Guys with your hosts, Todd and Chris. And it's going to be a wonderful day with us. The next hour or so, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, is going to be fun for you guys, fun for us. We look forward to catching up with you. It's been a little while, too. We had a little summer break, if you want to call it that. Certainly not as long as what we had when we were in grade school, but took a little time off. There was, some personal things going on, and that also gives us a little more time to catch up at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, I think the people would never know really, other than the fact that we talk about things that happened at that time frame, right? So,
Yeah.
my cousin Billy, he was telling me he listened to that latest episode again. Loyal listener, man.
I love it. No, thanks,
Yep.
Billy. We appreciate you.
Super loyal listener. He what do you call it? Oh, we heard us talking about like the Yankees. I couldn't believe it. Like that last one that we put out,
Yep.
we were talking Yankees, so that's crazy. So we have a little bit of a backlog. I talk about this a lot, but we will get those out. We've been putting some work in producing episodes, and yeah, we'll get them out.
Absolutely. And I think, again, life happens. Sometimes you deprioritize things. I do that, I call it work all the time. Everything, it's like a crunch at the end. But no, we're back at it. It's not a simple, plug and play, record and send out. We at least want to give you good content. We want the audio to sound good. We'd love, the video to be as good as possible. So it takes a little time, in pulling it together. And yeah, to Todd's point, we're getting after it. I know, this whole podcast video editing piece is still very new to me, and learn something new every day. So it's been great, and we'll make sure we've got some fun episodes that we can't wait for you to hear, and we've got some fun episodes and ideas lined up as well, as we are working through season 1 of the High Five Guys. So I mean, with that being said, I know, Ty, it has been a little bit, maybe a little bit longer than a week or two since we've seen each other, talk to each other. Do you have some big highlights or any highlights since we last talked?
Yeah. I mean, I had really a roller coaster, a really great kind of whirlwind, I guess is what we're calling it, in July. It's just been awesome. Like we've been going somewhere just about every weekend. So the first one I'll highlight real quick, trip down to Atlantic City.
All right.
That was really cool. That was sort of last minute. We didn't have some big plan to do that, but it just kind of presented itself. Hotels are expensive these days. That's the only side caveat I'll say, right? Just it's amazing how expensive hotels have got, but awesome time at the Borgata.
Wonderful.
Borgata is still killing it. I mean, they've been around a while, right? They're not the young pup anymore.
No.
Ocean's quite a bit newer there, but Borgata, the pool's awesome. They have that like Vegas style like party pool.
I was gonna say, was there like a day DJ that was there?
There was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there was nice music playing. Bachelorette parties all over the place.
Of course.
Nice pool, nice water, palm trees all over, that kind of thing, right? Like a tropical setting pool. We even got some food there. They've done it really nice. They've done a good job. I mean, it's funny because you're surrounded by a couple like parking garages, which isn't like the greatest backdrop, but other than that, the rest, like it's a big area. I actually think it's better than that Ocean,
the new casino.
Yeah, I think Borgata one is nicer. So,
and I know Borgata's a little bit off the strip. I mean, it's still Atlantic City, but it's a little bit away for those.
There's the main strip. I mean, a lot of people are not going to know Atlantic City, but yeah, there's the. Well, actually, of our listeners, right? they should know
does Billy know Atlantic City?
I'm sure. Yes, he does. There's the main strip, and then there's the marina side, right? Which is a mile and a half away or something.
Absolutely.
Borgata's over there. But they're doing it right after all that time. It's still good. A cool indoor pool too. So we love that.
Yeah. Nice.
I'll throw one more in, which was great. Was a combined weekend of Fire Island and the Hamptons Wine Trail.
And that would be, I'd love to hear a little bit about it. I've never been to either of those, Fire Island or let's say the eastern side of Long Island.
You have to get there sometime. Maybe we'll have to go there or something. It's a really good time. It's totally worth the little trip.
Yep.
We went there Saturday. We got up early Saturday, biked all around. That was really cool.
Nice.
It's a great way to get around. Yeah, you can go rent bikes.
Okay.
I forget. I think we paid like $40 or something, and got decent bikes. And we were riding all over the place.
And you had the bikes for the whole day, essentially.
Yeah. It's for a full day. You just return like later on at night. It's great. It's such a cool place. It's like you really don't feel like you're in New York, right? It's really like this little vacation escape. So if the weather's nice, it's fantastic. There's a great beach on one side. It's actually one of the nicest beaches, I would say, in our whole area, whole East Coast area. It's
Fire Island. Huh?
Yeah, it really is. And so there's that on the one side, you have that. And when I say side, I mean, it's literally just like 5 blocks to the other side, from one side to the other. It's a narrow little barrier island strip, but they've done it really nicely. No cars allowed, so you're all walking or biking, and
did not know that.
Wagons around. Yeah, so that makes it a really unique setting. So that was awesome. And we had good weather. Oh, and on the other side, it's kind of like party town. It's really fun. It's I'm not sure what town to compare it to, but it's bars and restaurants and ice cream shops and little clothing stores, whatever. It's
Seaside Heights, or a little more like
way nicer though. It's way nicer. There's no comparison like that. It would have to be like Virginia Beach is pretty nice.
That's a fun
hotels though. So if you deleted the big hotels, maybe something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was cool. And then just real quick. And then the wine trail, awesome. If you haven't done it, really good time. It's you get out to like in the Hamptons. It's a ways out there.
Okay.
You get out to like the North Fork. The Hamptons sort of like fork out as you get farther out there.
Yeah. Okay.
And around those forks, I guess it's very good conditions for like wine grapes.
Yep.
And they make great wine out there. The wine's really good. So we also went to a cidery that was really good.
Nice.
But yeah, we just did a tour around and it was fantastic.
And now that tour you do typically like via car, so you just go travel to a couple different wineries.
Ideally, what you really should do is you get like one of these vans. You get one of these party buses.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're like staying out there, So I mean, we didn't drink a lot, right? We just had our few little samples here and there. But yeah, it's great time.
I mean, is there one winery, cidery that stood out in terms of if you got to try one, this is what it is?
There's a place that reinvented themselves, I guess, this year. I hadn't been there before, but they just very clearly just recently did a bunch of stuff. And it's all these like they have like these outdoor lounge furniture with like the canopy covering, and then like the sectional type lounge type settings, and like 7 or 8 of those around, but all done with like nice materials in like a really modern looking way. So it just you walk right. Oh, and then there it's backdropped by like what do you call it? Vineyard.
That's
so it was just
awesome.
Super scenic. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't want to say bougie is not the right word, but it's a very nice way to relax and hang out at a winery.
Yeah, the weather.
Yeah,
so, that was one of the last places we went to, but it was great. Yeah,
that's perfect.
How about you?
So yeah, there were a couple, I'll call it celebrations that happened over the last few weeks. So I did go to Philadelphia for we'll call it a friendcation. So each year, best friends and I, we get together and we do a gift exchange each year for each letter of the alphabet. Since we started doing this like gift exchange, we did do it around Christmas time all of the years, but then as Christmas got more involved with families and kids and whatnot, we started doing like, why don't we just do it in July? Just make it like a little more of a party. And so that ended up working out for us well. So I was in Philadelphia and it was wonderful. Just had a quick weekend, went down Friday, came back on a Sunday, and it was great. We had really good food, so great food in Philadelphia in terms of some of the local restaurants, the like deli shops, hoagies, cheesesteaks, nice. What you think of Philly, it's really good. And yeah, the gift exchange was always great. So one of the gifts actually is behind us, and it's on the opposite side of the high five guys. It's the good vibes sign. I'll turn it on quickly, but what you'll see, for those that are able to watch the video, and if you're tuning in on audio, please check the video out. See, there it's bright. Now, what's fun is it actually looks a little bit less bright in person, but it is a good vibe sign, and that works out perfectly well for our theme. So really thankful to get that as one of the gifts. And the reason why we got it, this was year 14. The 14th letter of the alphabet is N as in Nancy. And so this is a neon sign. So that was the gift. So nice. Really fun.
That's great.
And then
I love that. We'll have to, I'm coming up to your place this weekend, right? We'll take a shot at like figuring out a perfect lighting setup that may work that allows that sign to also look good.
Yeah,
because it allows the sign to be on, but you also look good with it on. Because it just rounds out a little bit. It's so bright.
Yeah, that's the thing, and so that's why we have it off. But it's awesome. I love it. It's a perfect gift, and we all had a great time. And then during the last week or so, there were there are more celebrations, but birthday celebrations. So we had a really nice time with my dad, my sister, family, my nephew. Dad turned 75. So I would say just milestone birthday. And so it was really nice. We ended up going to a state park in the Poconos that we vacationed probably 20 years ago as a family. 25 years ago was the last time we all were there as a family. Wow. And it was really nice to actually spend time almost the entire day. And we had gifts. We had 2 tables right near the water, right near the lake that was there, which was great. So we had some shade. It was really just perfect. And my dad had a wonderful time. And that was the most important thing, was seeing him happy. And just we had a great time that weekend. I stopped by my Poconos house. It's still there. Miraculously, the roof is not buckled anymore. And so that's an interesting update. So I know I had shared that was, I think with, everybody that shared, that happened when the renters moved out. Wasn't sure why. I thought it was heat related. It's not there anymore. I think the roof was replaced. Portions of the roof, that portion that was buckled, I think was replaced. There are new shingles that have a different color than the shingles on the house.
Wait. Who did it?
So there were 2 contractors that met me. We went through everything in terms of what to fix, what not to fix, or let's get some final quotes. I wasn't ready to pull the trigger and do anything right away. The roofer contractor said, I could probably get this done next week after. And I reiterated to him, I'm not sure what I want to do yet. Do I want to replace everything? Do I want to do a little patch job just for that area? I go back, Todd. It's done.
Oh,
it's done. The patch, like I'll have to share photos. It's done. So I went on the ladder. I didn't go on the roof because I'm a little bit scared of that. But I got high enough on the ladder and took a photo and yeah, it is a different shingle. It is. I don't know how to explain it. I didn't get an invoice. I didn't get an email. I didn't get a call about it. I've reached out to the guy, so hopefully I'll get something back and just say I did it, or I don't know. Who knows? So that's fun.
Right.
And then, yeah, lastly, 2 quick things. I had a milestone birthday as well that came up and turned the big 40. So I joined the 40-year-old club, and so far so good. Things haven't been creaking as much as what people tell me. My knees still feel like they need some massage and just need to be stretched out. I really I do need to stretch more. I realized that. I had some friends come up this past weekend. We did a little celebration. We spent some time in Saratoga, played some disc golf. It was great. My legs, like I feel like I am, how should I say this? Like just constricted. Like everything feels so wrapped up. And if I just had a rolling pin and was rolled out everywhere, I feel like I'd feel much better. So, no, 40th birthday was great. Had a really nice time. We had a really nice dinner with Joe, and I went out on my birthday, and with my friends, we went out to a couple places. All you can eat sushi place, really good in downtown Saratoga, and just fun spending time with people. I know you're gonna come up this weekend. We'll have a good time as well. And the only other thing I did was I signed up for my first ultra marathon.
Completely absurd. Is that 100 miles?
So it's at least 26.2. Usually it's 30 plus miles is an ultra marathon. This one in particular is it's a 6-hour race. So my idea, you could only cover 20 miles in those 6 hours. My idea is to do 35 miles in those 6 hours.
Oh, you did mention this to me. Yeah, okay. I forgot. Yeah, you did tell me some of the details. That is so crazy.
So training starts yesterday. So I got to get ready for that. Because I haven't done anything for 6 hours straight in a number of years. This would actually be only my second longest race, but that's for another story. That's for another time. So more to come on my training for this ultra marathon, this 6-hour race. And we'll see how that goes in early October.
Wow.
Nuts. So we didn't even get a chance to talk about the topic for today, but now might be a better time than any to go through it. And we're going to talk about investing, the stock market, money. And kind of, it's not really in any particular order, but really, I know a lot of families out there, have money conversations. A lot of people are happy about money, not happy about money. And there's so many different investment options also out there. We're not going to go through, we're going to just scratch the surface, honestly. But I think what we talked about would be really cool to share with people are just, how we got involved either with investing or what we're invested in. What was our first experience with that? Did we have like a childhood experience, conversations with our family? And then ultimately, what we're investing in now in terms of vehicles, like a 401k or a Roth IRA. And I'll give some definitions along the way as well. And then maybe we had a best trade or a worst trade. So I think a lot of people listening as well might have also experienced like, oh wow, I sold this stock and it was $80 and I sold it at 100. I made some money. Well, I could certainly speak on for myself where I've had some really awful moves as well, and just share kind of like the learning experience. Why I did it, and then what kind of to take away from investing, because it can be overwhelming. I think a lot of people might shy away from it and just keep money in the bank. Maybe they don't think they have enough money to invest. What are some, 1 or 2 words of wisdom or little nuggets that we could share along the way? What do you think about that, Todd?
Oh man. I mean, it's kind of funny because to be honest, like I feel like I've had the worst luck of anybody, or maybe just bad strategy, whatever it is. Mine are basically follies more than anything else. It's my my greatest misses is really what my history looks like.
Yeah,
more than anything, other than like Yeah, no, I mean we can jump into it. Yeah, we'll jump into it. But yeah.
So I mean, I'll just kick it off first, like kind of childhood memories, like first even like inkling of this thing called the stock market or investing or things like that was back in for me it was like middle school, really into high school. I scrolling through the channels, CNBC had this ticker at the bottom of the screen, and it had, a couple of letters, right? And it had numbers next to it and a plus sign. And I was really big into math already, just as a child growing up. I loved numbers. I loved doing, addition, multiplication, things in my head. And so I just saw these numbers. I was like, this is kind of cool. So would follow CNBC a lot more when I was growing up. And it certainly still didn't mean anything necessarily to me. But in high school, I had some accounting classes. We briefly touched on, let's say, investing, or if you gave out shares of your company, what would that do to, your company's financials? Okay. And then ultimately my dad, like he kind of shared a little bit of information where, he had some shares based on the company that he was with. And, I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. So at least my dad's got some stuff in there. I didn't really know anything else about it, at the time. What was your like first experience or kind of like even like I'll call it words relating to the stock
I
market
think my
investing?
very first experience was I remember my parents had put money into bonds when we were
Okay.
kids. And we're not talking, like lots of money. I mean, just, whatever, like, whatever amount. And they presented that to us right after we graduated college. So that was kind of
Okay.
cool.
Yeah.
So I mean, they hadn't grown that much, right? I guess bonds don't. They take. It's good. It's a good way to invest. I think like tons of money, right? When you're dealing with billions or trillions or whatever, like
Yep.
bonds are great for that.
Yep.
But they're not great for like taking that big swing at like 3xing or whatever. Like it just never does that, right?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. So, but we got that when I graduated, and actually that's what kind of started my foray into the stock market. So right after
Okay.
I graduated, I didn't immediately have a job. I was back at home with my mom, and well, my parents.
Yep.
But my mom and I were there a lot during the day, and we started doing like just a little bit of day trading.
Yep.
We just jumped in and just
Nice. No,
we
so
jumped.
you were sitting next to them and actually just kind of whatever. We're gonna buy this stock. We're
Yeah,
gonna
we
buy
were
that.
this little
Okay.
team that didn't know a whole lot, and but we we took some chances like with the with some of that bond money that they had.
I love it. I think it's
Yeah,
awesome.
so that was my first foray into it, and I do remember like man, one of my biggest misses from like way back in the day. I was really close to like getting a bunch of shares of Google.
Okay.
I don't know why
Yep.
I didn't. Right after they IPO'd, they IPO'd at like $85 a share, and I don't
And
know how many times it's split. Or have they split? I'm not sure, but whatever it is now, like that was literally that was the IPO price, and I was gonna buy a decent amount of Google. That was like the best thought I had, and I just didn't. So
yeah.
that started my long streak of just always making the wrong move.
Yeah. No, that's I mean, but I think that's really cool that actually you had that experience with your parents, right? To kind of just, whatever. You could say play around or just, have an initial foray into, investing and what that looks like. And yeah, the whole Google piece, I think like looking back, a lot of people said, oh, if I had invested in Google, if I invested in Apple and Microsoft,
Yeah.
Home Depot, some of these like, banner, we'll call it companies, if you will, mainstream companies. Absolutely. So you can, there's always woulda, coulda, shoulda,
Yeah.
I guess. And certainly, I think in our experience as well, right. In doing that. And I think I'll actually say right now, one of the things is it's never too late to invest. Sure, the right time could have been a few years ago, but the next best time is now. It's today, tomorrow. And so we could talk a little bit more about that a little bit later in the pod. I know for me, like my first real exposure of actually doing something with investing in the stock market, I was an intern for a financial advisor for a summer, which actually gave me a really good idea of just what people are invested in, not necessarily particular stock or bonds, but types of investments too. Like there were certainly things I don't even I didn't hear of an annuity. I did not hear of the, term of like a mutual fund, versus a stock or a bond. And, being able to at least be involved in some of the conversations, as a 21-year-old, just listening was very informative to me, and I saw how the financial advisor would interact with the clients, what type of materials would go out to them. Okay, it interested me. And with an accounting background, I certainly didn't think I was going to be an accountant, for my career. The stock market interested me, and I said, okay, if I could still do something with the stock market, why not? And kind of similar to you, as soon as I graduated college, I started at Mars, right? That's where we met. And with Mars, I had my biggest paychecks coming in, right? This is money that I haven't seen that sort of money before. I saved up $4,000 and opened up a Scottrade account. Okay. So I could invest on my own. And so that was my first real experience of, oh gosh, I've got this money now and I'm going to invest in something. And so I have, I had a Scottrade account. They now merge with a couple other, companies, bigger companies. And now it's Schwab is kind of owned everything that I have. But in that sense, and it was scary, Todd, your money, all of a sudden I'm going to buy 50 shares of this or 20 shares of that. And then just almost like analysis paralysis, like watching it, like it's going to really change every day. Where I know a lot of the rule of thumb is you buy it and then you should set it and forget it, right? Buy a stock, just watch it grow in 20 years and then, sell it. I know we've maybe experienced that a few times, but we like the sort of, okay, this is going up 20%, 30%. Do I sell? Do I hold on to it? That was my first, I'll call it an investment type of account that I had. And, with Mars, I did have a retirement account. So that was my first instance of a 401k. And how do you get involved in that? What does that even mean? And I know, I'll just go here for a second on 401k. Typically, companies will offer a retirement plan to their employees. Sometimes, or most of the time, you'll hear 401k where, if you make $50,000 and you put 3% in, that means $1,500 of the $50,000 that you made will go into this 401k. So it's usually pre-tax. So usually they take it before the tax is taken out. And then sometimes the company's nice enough, they'll match it. They'll match like a 3% match. So if you put in 3%, they'll match 3%, which is great. Then there's other types of retirement, especially if you're a teacher, usually there's a 403b, which is a different type of retirement vehicle. But for the most part, they do give you the same option of investing. There's a target fund, and Todd, stop me if this is going too deep, people are falling asleep, but usually people are going to retire at 65. That was the age, for a number of years that people have been retiring. So when you start a job, normally they'll have a target fund for the year or around the year that you're going to turn 65, and it just naturally will go into that. And over time, that fund, if you will get less risky over time. So you might be making 6, 7, 8, 9% now, but closer to that 65 year, whatever that may be, it'll be only maybe a 5% return, or 4 or 5%, just because it's coming up to maturity, if you will, at 2050. But that's a lot. But 401k, you can also invest in other stock. You can invest in stocks. You can invest in mutual funds. You can invest in bonds. I know that's, like that's a lot. Some people might not even know the difference. And I'll just do a quick thing on stocks. Stocks versus bonds. Stocks are you're investing into a company. You're essentially buying shares to own a small piece of a company. And you may get a return on that. You may not. Like the stock, the company might completely fold and you don't have a guaranteed return. Like you actually could lose all your money, if you invest in a stock. Whereas a bond is something that has a less risky profile, but you might not also have a high return like a stock does typically. So in a bond, there's a guaranteed return to you as the bond holder. And you mentioned earlier, it could be a government bond, it could be a municipal bond, a local bond, but ultimately they guarantee returns over a certain period of time, but it's not as lucrative as buying shares in a company or stock. So that's really your big difference between a stock and a bond. There's some tax differences. Won't get involved in that at all. Don't need to. But I know I am invested in both. I have stocks and bonds currently. What about you, Todd? Like, do you have stocks or bonds, or a combination of both?
I have stocks and funds.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
mutual funds, like index funds. I actually need to consolidate those, like from my various employers. I haven't done a good job of doing that. But yeah, like 401k accounts. That's mainly what I have going on. And like I said, in terms of being a stock picker long term, I've been bad. I've been very bad.
Yeah, I am. I'm in the same boat. So when it comes to stock market investing, so Todd and I, and maybe many of you listening as well, have like your own brokerage account where you can just put in money. It's not that simple, but you could transfer money into your account and ultimately do what you want with it. If you want to invest in Tesla, you want to invest in Apple, you want to invest in this 10-cent penny stock and buy 20,000 shares. Like you could do that and whatever happens, right? That's all on you and based on your decisions versus working with a financial advisor or a broker that may guide you a little bit better and saying you, based on your risk profile, should do this, or you could invest in this company, or give me the money and I'll make sure I manage it in a certain way, right? Those are all options. But when it comes to stock market investing, it's tricky. You can invest in a particular company. You can invest in Apple. You could also invest in, and Todd mentioned mutual funds. You could also invest in a mutual fund that is we'll call it conglomerate, maybe that's not the right word, of 50 of the biggest companies in the world, which would include an Apple. So there are certain mutual funds out there that only focus on, we'll call it blue chip companies. We'll call it technology companies. It could be gasoline, petroleum type companies. You could do a mutual fund on just car companies. So anything that you're interested in, I'm sure you'll find a mutual fund that you could get into. And the good news about mutual funds is normally they're managed by other people. They're managed by a company like Vanguard, where they have people like, let's say Todd or myself could be a specialist in a certain industry. And we will then look at that. And while we're managing this, we'll call it the gasoline, mutual fund, I'm going to take a look at Exxon and Chevron and British Petroleum, et cetera, and say, you know what, I'd like to adjust my, profile in these companies. But you as a person, you as an individual are just invested in that mutual fund and let the heavy work be done by someone else. You just say, I want to have money invested in the gasoline type of mutual fund. That's great. And then there's typically a percent fee associated with that when you buy a mutual fund. Usually it's 0.5%, maybe 1%. Anything above that is more than you probably should be paying. But you can invest in mutual funds. You could also do that in your own account. And so I also have mutual funds invested. Todd said he's got mutual funds invested. The stocks are really where things get crazy, because a lot of times you might hear the meme stocks, like GameStop, like Bed Bath and Beyond, when it was around. It's crazy to say it's not around anymore, but like those stocks, some, especially with social media, I think it's much different now than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago investing. There is so much noise and so much news that you have on your phone, on your computer, on your laptop, wherever, that people can sometimes artificially inflate or deflate a stock's price or a stock's momentum, and then people will go into it, and all of a sudden you see the stock price go from 10 to 50 to 200, like GameStop did, and all the same day go down to $100. And there's a lot of emotion involved in, I think, the stock market that, some people, rightfully so, will like shy away from it, say, listen, it's too crazy. I don't know what to do or do anything. I don't know how to do anything. I'm just not going to do anything. And that's okay, because it is very emotional when you invest in the stock market, because sometimes you always expect things to go up, but if they don't, you have to know how you'll react to that, and not overreact, or not do something stupid and crazy. Anything that you want to add to that, Todd?
Oh, well, definitely that era of like the Wall Street bets era was a really fun time, I'll say. I didn't have the direct action, but I watched it all unfold. It was right during COVID, right? Everybody had a trading account. Everybody went on Robinhood. All the young people had Robinhood accounts. Everyone else had their TD Ameritrade accounts and stuff, Schwab, whatever. And it was one of the things you could do during that time, right? Everybody, we're in lockdown. One thing you could do is trade stocks and crypto. And so I think the thing that was really interesting about that specific period of time was it was a Reddit group, right?
Yeah.
It was a bunch of like young guys, has to be just young dudes, right? Like young Chad type dudes. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe them properly, but young guys. And it was just, they all got together and like they found this GameStop in particular, right? They found a stock there that didn't have so many outstanding shares on the market. That was what I heard about them. There's only like the market's not flooded with shares of GameStop stock. And so what that means is like people who act in a collaborative way can have an outsized impact on the share price. So what they all did was they just bought it up, and then it was just that hodl, right? It was hold against everything. All those memes are coming out, like they had like the Braveheart memes and stuff, and it's just hold, hold the line. And so what happened? It started shooting up, and the short sellers came in. They were trying. So there's all these hedge funds that try to, sell short a lot of stocks, and that was one that became a big target. So they thought they were gonna like bounce everybody out and then plummet the price, and they make money from it as it's going down the opposite way, right?
Yeah.
Short selling's a crazy vehicle, but that's you're betting on the negative side. But they just kept holding. Nobody sold. So as long as you don't sell, you can't trigger a sell-off. That is what triggers a plummeting price. And so what happened was like there was short squeezes that happened, right? So and that's where it jumped from whatever. It started at like $7 a share, I think, and then it went to 50, and then I thought it was done there. I thought that was it. And then it short squeezed again to like 340 or something like that. I think that was the peak, something crazy like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, obviously that's extreme outlier. That is not how the market normally works. But yeah, that was kind of fun because that also was a time where like crypto was just going bonkers too. Like all the
Nuts.
right. What do you
There was
call it?
Dogecoin.
Yeah, Dogecoin. That came a little bit later, I guess. I think that was after that Wall Street bet era is when the coins really ran up.
Okay, and I mean Bitcoin certainly being like the most prominent, we'll call it cryptocurrency. I have zero investment in Bitcoin at the current time. Not saying I'd ever not, or I wouldn't do it. It just I don't understand it too much right now.
That's probably my biggest mistake. Bitcoin is really interesting. The thing that I told myself this is what messed me up on Bitcoin investment. I just said like it was during the period where a lot of people just kept coming out with new coins, right?
Yeah.
Dogecoin comes
Yep.
out. Well, Ethereum's been out there. Whatever, Litecoin, all this stuff, right? And they were doing different things. And the whole thing about Bitcoin is there will never be more than a certain amount of them produced.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yep.
very difficult to mine Bitcoin, right? It takes a ton of
It,
electrical processing. But it's capped. Like the way that the whole system is set up is that they're not going to produce more than a certain amount. They're going to hit that number, and that's it. And there won't be
yeah.
more Bitcoins, at that point. That's a pretty good way for something to hold value. The thing that I told myself was they're just gonna keep coming up with other coins. And why don't people just walk away from that? But that's too expensive now. I'm just gonna use this other coin. That's
Yeah.
not what's happened
Yep.
though. People have sort of centralized on Bitcoin, Ethereum. I think maybe those two really more than anything else. As the people have just kind of decided like, yeah, that's the way to go. I had a full Bitcoin
Wow.
that I bought.
And how long ago was that? Yeah.
I bought it at like 8,000. It was during COVID again, but
yeah,
I was thrown off by the fluctuation. There was a couple mornings I woke up and it was one time it was up 500 or something, but then like another time it was down 1,200. Just I woke up the next morning, it was down 1,200. And I don't know. I was just like tired of seeing that red like that, or just having that kind of volatility. I got out of it. I sold it. I should have at least maybe held on to half or something. But yeah, that's one of my worst trades ever. I should have just held on to it.
Yeah, I mean, so you can see even in here just with investing. I mean, there's, thousands of companies or thousands of mutual funds, or heck, you have commodities you can invest in, like corn and oil and gold. You can invest in Bitcoin. It's not like it's nuts. Like, and I think again can be overwhelming. I've had my fair share of, I'll call it oopsies in terms of investing. So, that being said, for me on the stock market, what I've invested in my own, I'll call it individual account, has been predominantly individual stocks. And back in, the early 2010s, it was a lot of the Chinese stocks. To be honest, Tencent is probably my biggest holding right now that I have in my portfolio. And Todd made mention about COVID, and that was certainly the time where I played around a lot with not just stocks, but with options. And that got carried away fast. So stock is, you pay, say, $100 for Apple stock and you get one share, right? That's a stock. An option is saying, I am buying the idea or the option to buy a stock at a certain point in time at a certain value. And there's a call option and a put option. And basically a call option means I think the stock's going to go up. So I want to lock in the price now because I think the stock will go up. If it goes up, I pay the lower price. And then a put option is I think the stock's going to go down. And so, you'd buy a put option, in that case, if you thought the stock was going to go further down from the price that you bought the option at. But I know, again, very confusing. I could explain it in much better detail, for another time, or just send me a message. Stocks. Todd's also, just as knowledgeable too. But on options, it's 100% risk. If it doesn't go the way that you expect it to, or maybe your research says it expects it to, you can lose 100% of your money. And so I did that. My worst trade ever with an option was pets, PETS. Gosh, it's a pet med company. They actually just released the earnings, and it wasn't as bad as I think what I thought the stock market was reflecting. Like, the stock went down quite a bit. It went down 10, 15% that day after the earnings came out. And I said, you know what? I don't believe it. I think it'll come back. And so, sure enough, the stock never came back to the price that I thought it was going to come back to. And, I lost, it was $1,600. I wrote down on my little cheat sheet.
Yeah.
That's quite a bit. And with options, you can buy options out into the future, just like stock. You want to buy it and hold on to it forever, but you can also buy and sell in the same week. You could buy and sell in the same day. And so ultimately that was not a good trade. And I still admit options. I don't know. I know what I'm doing, but I don't have a lot of the research that would say this is a good idea or this is probably not a good idea. I just do it most of the time off of gut feel. And that's not correct. Again, shooting, or sharing with people because I've got some good wins. I want to share things that aren't working well. So I would say with options, honestly, don't even mess around with it unless you truly know what you're doing or you're willing to lose everything that you invest, whether it's $50, $5, $500, $5,000. The problem is a lot of money can also be made in options. You might not have to hold the share at all, and the stock goes up tremendously, goes from 50 to 75. Your option might be worth a lot more than it was before. And that's sort of what's the word, Todd? But that's the excitement with options is you can make a lot of money quickly if it goes the way that you want it to. So I think, again, options are tricky. Stocks, my best, I guess my worst performing stock was where did I read? Oh, Baidu. So it's a Chinese company, Baidu. I bought it when it was in the 200s and I sold it back when it was in 90. And it's actually even below 90 now, but it was just the not right timing. I said, you know what? I want to cut my losses and just, sell the stock. At that point I sold, I think it was close to 10 shares, $1,200 was my worst long-term stock sell. And at the same time, Norwegian Cruise Lines during COVID got hit tremendously. All the entertainment type stocks were beaten down along with everything else, at the time. I bought some shares of Norwegian that ultimately bounced back come June, July, when, maybe we're going to start to cruise again. Maybe we're going to open up the casinos, more and more. And so, I ended up, I bought Norwegian and, a couple months later I sold it, and I sold it for, like a $1,500 profit. So that was good. And my best option was the volatility index. The VXX is the ticker symbol. I'll always remember that. I think it was the second week in June. And things went nuts. And I bought it and I sold it 2-3 days later and made $1,600, on that sell. So it's good, again, not saying, oh, I'm amazing. It's just showing you what you can get invested in. What does it look like if you're invested long-term, short-term, and again, sometimes there's good wins and good stocks that you purchase, and sometimes there's things that you do that don't work out well. And I do have a fair share of stock that I actually still have in my portfolio that I'm hoping it just turns, the ship turns around. Not sure when, but hopefully it turns around. Gosh, one of them, Warner Brothers, I invested in, and it's not doing what I expected to. And it's all a learning experience. And I know, we'll close out the segment here in a little bit about just like the learning experience, but that's what, stock market and investing and really saving for retirement. I mean, ultimately, I think, my goal is to be financially free. I'd like to have the ability where I have enough money so I'm saved up or set up for retirement, but I can also work when I want to work, or work for a company because I want to work for a company. And I know a lot of people also have, either that type of goal, or it's also, maybe it's just, making ends meet, on your side, and investing and, saving for retirement and having more money than you do today is an option for anybody. Whether you have $5, $50, $5,000, or $500,000, you can invest in something today that will traditionally have a return, and you'll have more money in the future. Because if you leave it at home, with just a big cash balance in your bank account, typically those don't earn any interest. We talked about bonds earlier. Like, those are pitiful if you if you have a lot of cash just sitting around doing nothing for you. So there's also investments that you can do where the cash is liquid. You can still get it, but you could get a 4% or 5% return, and those are the high yield savings accounts. I know I've got one of those. Todd, do you have one?
I do not at the moment. I probably very much should.
So, and I say that because, it's something that I didn't really know too much about before. And before, a lot of the banks would give you 2-3% if you had money in your savings account. But nowadays, many, unfortunately, the big banks don't give much return at all, for the cash that's sitting there. So if you go to a high yield savings account, typically you get a 4%, 5% return, and the cash is still liquid. You could say, I need to take the cash out, and you could do that the next day, 2 days later, you could put in a request. It's just really powerful to have options for whatever money you have available. Again, everybody is in all different walks of life, all different spectrum in terms of money and financial literacy. I just want people to truly know that regardless of how much money you have, there are options for you to get either invested in the stock market, or at least have your cash working for you, than just sitting around. And that to me is it's so important. And I love this whole finance piece, because I love helping people. In addition to just my consulting gig that I have right now, I'm really big into financial literacy and working through starting my business where there is a financial coaching aspect of it. I think it's so important. Nice. And before, like, some words of wisdom, I do have, and just wanted to throw out to people, 2 things in terms of what I'm invested in. Because I talked about the stock market, talked about some bad trades, good trades, awful trades, but like invested in now. Again, if you have a financial advisor, certainly talk to them. If you just want my words of wisdom or Todd's words of wisdom, you can reach out to us. But I am invested in the stock market. I have individual stocks. I also have a high yield savings account. I've got cash set aside, so emergency fund. It's important, honestly, 3 to 6 months. Please try and save that up if you don't have that saved up right now. It's very important in case dishwasher breaks, in case there's a car repair. Please, try and do that where you can. I have a life insurance policy that has like an investment option to the side. Sometimes life insurance policies, whole life insurance, not for everybody, but I'm just throwing that out there. I do have the cash. I've got even an HSA. So for people who might not have families and they have to get health insurance, an HSA is like a triple tax benefit to you. For the money that you put in is tax deductible. The money you take out or for dental and costs, for medical costs, all tax free, and then that money that's in that HSA account grows tax free. So it's a great option, especially when you're covering medical expenses, to have an HSA if that's an option for you and your family. And last but not least, I did start this year to purchase what's called the all-weather portfolio. Not going to go in all the details, but there is a famous person you can search on the internet who's got a portfolio or ultimately found out a way to get very consistent returns regardless of what the stock market does. Ups and downs, left and rights. There's a tried and true portfolio that will weather all the different seasons, and has historically earned like a 7 or 8% return each year. So I'm doing that on the side in one of my accounts to see if I actually do get that 7 or 8% return yearly. So I've been putting money in every month, every 6 weeks or so, and I'm following the all-weather portfolio because I think it's something you can do, and there's zero risk to you because you're not paying someone else to manage your money. And historically, it's gotten very nice returns, compared to just keeping the cash in your bank account. So, yeah. Any last words of wisdom from you, Todd, in terms of investing?
Well, funny. I mean, again, I feel like I've been somewhat unlucky, somewhat just bad strategy. But I will say the things that have done the best for me long term has been my house and those sort of boring like mutual funds, index funds, whatever. Where I'm not trying to be this stock Wall Street guy, stock picker. Just just doing the sort of normal stuff, right? I call that the pretty normal, safe investing. Real estate's pretty good. I mean, you could have bought in the absolute peak. That would have been unlucky. You bought in like 07. That would have been pretty unlucky. I think even I was able to see that was a bubble. Just kind of waited, and I bought after that, right? Like 2009, 2010. That's probably been my best performing asset over that whole time span.
It's well said, because I own a house as well, and I feel like the safer bets are honestly probably the better bets. Certainly, I've got a similar experience, Todd. I feel like what's worked for me, my house as well. Generally, real estate appreciates in value, and there's certain tax benefits you also get from owning real estate property. Can't say it's always the best. I mean, every option has pros and cons, but that has been consistent. And in investing, you may like a certain company or like a certain set of companies, but try, if you want to limit that volatility, is invest in a mutual fund that encapsulates that. It could be, big tech companies. It could be, I want to invest in just like a Lowe's or a Home Depot. And like, again, your tried and true companies typically have done a better job on the longer term for, investment returns and even dividends, where every quarter, maybe even once a year, they'll actually give you as a shareholder some money. I'll call it money back. They'll pay you. So, no, my 2 words of wisdom to everybody is just know your risk tolerance. Stock market investing, or just any investing, can be tricky, right? Or I don't know what to do with my money. I want to do something. Know how risky or I call it not risky you want to be. And by knowing that, there is an option or a plan for everybody based on your risk tolerance, on getting involved, on having your $500 turn into $600. And you could do it on a pretty much a guaranteed way, like bonds, or have a much safer route. You could do it in stocks, but just know that there's an option for everybody out there when it comes to investing, when it comes to helping your money work for you. And hopefully give you a little bit better peace of mind, as the time goes on, because compounding interest, compounding investing, it goes a long way. So again, if you haven't really started investing, or you don't have much saved up for retirement or whatnot, the next best time to start is now. And thank you to listening to my TED Talk. No, our TED Talk, I should say, too. You know, I think the investing piece, Todd, you've had some really good points in there too. So really appreciate
thing I've
that.
noticed about owning the house, which actually is really cool. It's like, it's almost like a superpower that it has, is that, you know, I worked at, I got pretty lucky, I guess I would say. So, you know, I bought after it came down from that real high, right? So I got a fair price for my place. But then I refinanced during the crazy COVID interest rate times, right? Interest rates
nice
through the floor. So I was able to refinance it at like 2.7% rate, which is fantastic, right? And once you lock that in, even as much as inflation goes up, you're, in some ways, you're inflation proof, right? All these things have got more expensive. Your money is worth way less, but I'm still paying that same amount.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and that money is actually worth less now, right? Salaries actually are a little higher now. I mean, I know not everybody's, you know, thriving and, but whatever else, but like, you know, that same payment that I'm making now actually feels like less money than it did even 4 years ago, 3 years ago. Right. So it really, that's sort of like the superpower of the house. And like you said too, of, getting, you know, getting tax breaks and things from it too. So, it's, that's definitely, it's a good way to build wealth for sure.
I love it. And yeah, I mean, there's some things up there's so much, you know, you can learn or try and understand when it comes to investing, when it comes to real estate. Again, talk to a professional. You could get our opinions. You know, there's so much to share. That's why, you know, we tried to just, you know, touch base on some of the key things that we've learned along the way, right? The highs and the lows. So appreciate that. I mean, leave some comments if you have some generic comments. You know, we'll be happy to share our point of view with you on that. And, you know, again, you've hung out with us for an hour, and so we have to deliver to you some of the high fives of the week. I think you might have been excited for the topic, but high fives, man, I've seen billboards of people just saying, when are they going to give another high five? I've seen some tweets, some X's, whatever. I don't know, right? What's the new word for that? Some TikToks.
People still say, you know, formerly known as Twitter, and they still say tweets. So
yeah. I like the tweets. But let's do the high five of the week. Let's close out the show with a bang.
Yes, this is one part of my update that I was holding back, because I wanted to keep it for my high five. So not last weekend, the one before, went to Newport, Rhode Island for the Newport Folk Festival.
All right.
So,
and that's awesome.
Yeah, and we were made aware of this by a guest that we had on, the lovely Tracy, right?
Yep.
She's gone to this thing numerous times, and she was really sold us on it. She was just telling, you know, how great it is. And we went, and it was awesome. I even had a show the night before. Right, I had a show the Saturday night. So I only made it up for the Sunday. We left early Sunday. It ended up being about 3.5 hour ride. So
okay, so not terrible.
Yeah,
but
and we didn't get there as early as we would like. We got there like, I don't know, after 1:00. We left fairly early, but we had to stop for food and had to charge a little bit. And I got it. It was the slowest charger I've ever seen. I don't know why. It was just a low power Tesla supercharger. But we got there. But it was a great event. They have it it's called Fort McHenry. It's right on the water. So it's like, it's just like a very nice part of Newport, Rhode Island. Newport is very boating centric. For anyone who doesn't know, it's literally it was like a big port.
wanted to go for a long time to Newport. I still have not been.
Oh, you should absolutely go. Yeah, especially where you're not that far away, right?
It's probably about the same time wise.
Okay,
like
okay.
3.5 hours.
Okay. But great time. So it's all music. I saw Dropkick Murphys there. They were awesome. Anybody knows them? They're this
nice.
Irish band.
Yeah.
Right? You know them? Yeah. Real gruff, like high energy guys, and they were exactly the same in person. They were a blast. I'm not gonna remember a lot of the names. There's a lot of like fairly obscure stuff, but you go and you see it, you're like, oh, it's awesome. Conan O'Brien was the headliner.
Yeah. Yes.
Conan O'Brien with a bunch of the performers. Oh, this guy, right? Nathaniel Rateliff was there. He's awesome. He's a guy I like. But he came out. He's a good musician, and he was his same funny self. He was like doing his show, sort of. He's sort of like doing his late night show on the mic. Even Triumph, the insult
that's pretty cool.
dog, was there. And he brought various people out, and yeah, he's a pretty good musician. He's a pretty good guitarist. He's a pretty good singer. When he was playing with a lot of really talented musicians, they were fun. And even though it started raining like during his set, we had a great time. It was awesome. Once you get in there, you go around, there's actually good food around. There's some places that are even giving out like free drinks and stuff, and it's a very like friendly, brotherly vibe. They go out of their way going for that. They try to make it feel very inviting, very inclusive, and actually do a good job with that. You do not feel like you're gonna get mugged there, or nobody's gonna fight anybody or whatever. Like it's very chill, very, very cool vibe.
Yeah, I've heard. I mean, I've heard great things about Newport. It sounds like the folk festival itself was just a fun time, even for that short time that you were there.
It's a great time. Yeah, it was a 3-day thing. We just saw one of the days. We saw the last day, but the other days were apparently great too. So yeah,
I love it. That's awesome. That's a great. So you're giving a high five to the festival or Conan.
Yeah, shout out to them the way they run it. The acts they got, it was just a different experience, right? It's right on the water is definitely an aspect to it. It was really cool.
Awesome. And that's what a weekend should be, and what a festival should be like.
Yeah.
So it sounds like much better than the Fire Festival that didn't happen.
Yeah. I chose wisely.
Brother.
So how about you? Who are you high-fiving? Or what are you high-fiving?
So, right? I'm going to do two. One of them is, so one of them's the Olympics. So we're recording this mid-Olympic season. There are so many people to give high fives out to. And I have a feeling, Todd, we're going to do an Olympics episode pretty soon to kind of, go over what we're seeing and what we've seen. But I have to give a shout out to the Swedish table tennis. I'm going to call him a star. And his name, I think it's Truls Morgard.
Yeah, that's it.
Maybe So this guy in like the first round after like the qualifying rounds in table tennis, knocked off the number 1 ranked guy in the world that won 4 years ago and beat him. And the crowd support was nuts just for him. He couldn't believe that he won. And
we'll set up the context too of China, right? During the times that table tennis has existed in the Olympics, China has won every single one of them.
So that is a fun fact I didn't even know.
They're remarkably dominant. They're like more dominant than like our basketball team is, because we lost.
Wow,
right?
Yeah.
They have been more dominant than that. That's the context of that China team. And it's usually their number 1 guy versus their number 2 guy. That's usually the final match.
Absolutely, and that's fair. That's absolutely fair. He knocked him off.
He beat the top guy. And crazy.
He beat the top guy, and I think it was, I want to say 4-2 in terms of games. So they played best of 7, and so he beat him 4-2. And sure enough, he didn't just stop there. He ended up making it all the way to the finals. And
I did watch that.
And he did lose. So the Swedish star lost, Truls lost. But I think Morgard, like, he just, the way he played, and he had an amazing, like, magician, like, trick shot he did in the finals where they called it a snake. I don't know. I'm not, as good at table tennis. I'm not even close to their level. But ultimately, it came back onto his side of the net after it bounced on the other side and went off the opponent couldn't believe it. But I think the other Chinese gentleman did win the final and won for China. But shout out to Sweden for just completely upending, like, the bracket, if you will. If this was an NCAA bracket, there's your 1 versus 16.
Yeah, that was like the St. Mary's team or whatever. Yeah.
Just unreal. And it, frankly, in some of the other sports, again, I think we'll touch on it on future episode. There were a lot of either upsets or just feel good stories all around. I mean, so much to uncover on the Olympics. So definitely high five of the week to Truls. Just way to crush it, and just doesn't matter what ranking you are, you just go out there and play your game, and you never know what happens. And that day he beat the number 1 ranked player in the world.
Yeah, I feel like the U.S.
pretty cool.
It's been like a slight bummer to this point, right? So that was a good story. Like, those little stories like that have made it a little more fun as a U.S. fan, right? I mean, I think it's getting better maybe about now with track and stuff, but we started pretty slow.
Yeah, I would agree on overall in the Olympics, and absolutely. And just a quick shout out, honestly, to all my family, my friends, everybody who wished me a happy birthday for my 40th. I know maybe a little, cliche. It just, I'm an emotional man. I'm very passionate. Maybe that's a better way of saying it. So I get very, like, into things, like pickleball or running. But, at the same time, I'm a softie. I got a soft heart. So everybody who, just reached out to me, called, text, tweeted, visited, whatever, you name it. Everybody who just said happy birthday definitely means a lot. So just shout out to everybody there. And, hopefully the next 40 years are going to even be better. And, you might even be stuck with me for the next 40 years.
I still can't, like I was telling you, I still can't believe you're quite that old. I remember you, I still think of you as like that 23-year-old guy that I met, or whatever, 22 or 23 at Mars. I mean, you definitely stay young at heart, and you're in good shape and everything. But that number is for you. For me, it is crazy. I'm older than you, so I mean, it's even worse for me. Yeah.
No, it's awesome. And this podcast, hey, this is fun. It's now spanned 2 of my decades. So no,
that's a good way to say it. Yeah, we're going.
No, it's great, and really just appreciate everybody listening. I know we really do appreciate you, Billy. Hopefully you made it this far. I mean, shout out to you. Really, thank you everybody for listening, tuning into us. If you have ideas, topics that you think we should cover, current event, life stories, whatever, you name it, just leave us a comment, subscribe, share with your friends if you're enjoying it, share with your friends if you're not enjoying it, and say, listen to this thing, you have to listen to it. And no, we're thankful for everything. Thankful for all the listeners and people watching, tuning in. And next week, I know we're going to have a fantastic episode. It's going to be great. It might be Olympic themed. It might not be Olympic themed, but it might be Olympic themed. So
if it's not,
tune into that.
I might be talking to myself if it's not.
There you go. So really appreciate you all tuning in. Todd, any last words for the crowd today?
USA. Let's go, America.
That's a great sign out. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's close off the Olympics with a bang and keep on getting those medals. But thanks so much, everybody, for listening, for tuning in. Like, subscribe, share, comment. You got it. You know the drill. But just most importantly, have a great day. Have a great week. Give out some high fives. Spread some positive vibes. And we'll catch you on the next episode.